Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart, which we look at every day, along with the altcoin market, the XRP price chart. We'll look over there at the stock market as it gets ready to open up in about 30 minutes from now. We'll look at precious metals like gold and silver, the US dollar currency index, or the DXY. We'll look over there at any type of financial news or crypto news to kick off our day, as we are halfway through the week. But being halfway through the week means we're halfway through the weekend, halfway to the weekend. So happy Wednesday, everybody.
It is Wednesday, my
Man, we were so close to getting that intro off flawless. Last week it was like super rustiness after being off of Markets in the Morning for 2 weeks. We almost nailed it today. Maybe next week we'll get it. Oh yeah, I forgot that I have to turn that off. No, the dingus. Here we go. It's gonna do it again. There we go. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, happy. Look how flawless. Start over. Refresh. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see you on this wonderful Wednesday. It's good to see you guys in the chat. We'll jump into everything going on here in the markets in just a second. Obviously, we're still just dragging on here with Bitcoin. Everything is going on. Everybody is, of course, like cheering for the sea leg to come in and hurry up and get itself over with. Me too. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of making videos and thumbnails of it and not being able to change things up until we can kind of get through this moment. It's not that it's like in any way surprising to see this happen. For Bitcoin, of course, the altcoin market's just been just crawling on along there, just like pathetic during all of this. But, you know, this is just kind of what the expectations were here for Bitcoin, and kind of waiting for that last leg to get through and for it to wrap itself up. You know, we've kind of painted this thing for quite a while that, you know, retail sentiment hasn't returned. You know, so you would expect that, you know, there's going to be fear driven. You know, you're already just kind of see all the fear narratives out there right now, all the things, everybody's like on edge, everybody's worried, everything. So we'll see what comes. You know, today's going to end up being Fed day, so we always end up having volatility today and tomorrow. We'll see if that ends up being our triggering thing, or if we're just going to kind of drag on throughout here. I saw a good question in here just a moment ago, and I'll get to all the super chats later, and I appreciate all the super chats, you guys. But somebody had asked, or Andreas had said, "Hey PCB, how do you see XRP hold 208, 2% away if Bitcoin would drop 9% to 95K? Or do you mean that it'll wick much lower but close the day there?" Yeah, I think if like XRP doesn't have any type of meaningful bounce from where it's at right now, like, you know, kind of like if there's just not some little surprise up in here to be able to swallow that type of liquidation, I agree. It just seems like it's going to at least wick down there if it doesn't find something before that moment comes. I think everybody's kind of on edge thinking, it's like anywhere, it's around the corner. Timing is so hard to predict. It sure feels like it's like seconds away. It's moments away from happening. And we've got all the international conflict and we got the Fed stuff happening. But we don't know if it's going to happen today, or if it's going to happen in a week or in a month from right now for that to end up happening. So really anything could happen. I think if it happened like today, right? Yeah, I think XRP is going to wick lower. I don't see how it wouldn't, because it would likely trigger a liquidation throughout the whole market. If it happens in a couple weeks from right now, there's enough time for XRP to kind of shuffle its way up higher and then be able to swallow that, right? To be able to swallow that type of liquidation. So I think it just kind of depends on where the price is at and when it ends up happening. If it were to happen like literally today, I think it would wick lower. But I don't know if it's going to happen today or not. I think eventually we're going to get this stuff to play out in here, which you guys know that's what all the videos are about. And I'm just, until proven otherwise, unwilling to get off of that narrative and off of that thought process. And boy, I look forward to getting beyond it. But that's what we did talk about the whole way up in here to eventually get to this thing. And so now that we're just living in it, we kind of got to get through that last part where it really flushes. And so I think once it does, whether that's today, whether that's a week from now or 3 weeks from now, usually we don't end up having just a straight line wick down and then that bounces off there. Usually you're going to head down and then you're going to do it a second time really quick, and then we'll bounce our way out of there, but we'll address that whenever it comes. It just obviously hasn't triggered itself yet. So we're just kind of sitting around twiddling our thumbs, saying the same thing in fancier ways throughout all the videos until we can end up getting something like that to happen, because it's really just a ranging context, which isn't a surprise. It's not a surprise. But it is what it is until we get there. This is, in general, this is how we spend 80-90% of our time here in crypto, is that we're typically in ranging contexts. But I think that once we can get that move to happen, once we can get that flush, that fear, probably a narrative, you can kind of feel the warming up happening throughout, like just the news wire. We're just kind of getting hit after hit after hit of different like surprise newses. There's probably going to be some news. There's probably going to be something that ends up happening. I think everybody's pointing to the geopolitical conflict over there, thinking that that's going to end up being it. It seems a little obvious to me that that would end up being it, maybe, but it just seems a little obvious. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll end up being it, but it's typically something that just kind of spooks people and it scares people, because everybody's probably I've talked about this a lot recently. Like, there's none of that euphoria, right? That unshakable ground, the raging bullishness, the aggressiveness. It's people just kind of, it never came back. So people are shaky, right? So that all you have to do is just hit them real hard with a narrative, and you can get them to separate from their assets in that environment. So I think we'll probably see something scary happen, and it's going to be kind of like what we had, scariness that happened down in here. Not as dramatic, probably, but whether there's just some type of news we've been getting. Have you noticed like the order of weirdness of like how hard we're getting bombarded with news recently? Like, you had the Elon Musk stuff 2 weeks ago. Then you had all the stuff going on in California. Now you got all the geopolitical stuff, and all this has happened in like 14 days. And it's just like bam, 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 bam. I've noticed that. I had like an hour-long discussion with my wife about that this morning on like, it just feels like we're intentionally getting hit with narrative, uncertainty. Will there be one more? Maybe. Otherwise, we wait for this to go. And once we can get beyond that, the things that I'll be paying attention to is the reaction out of here. And so I've shown this in past videos. Maybe I'll do it again just to repeat myself again in a video this week to show how the market has reacted, and that it's once this bounce out of here happens, we watch to see how the altcoin market reacts in there. Obviously, Bitcoin dominance not doing anything at 65% right now. It's probably going to have to getting to this moment to see how that reaction happens, because it's not actually the bounce out of there that immediately has gotten the Bitcoin dominance to fall. It's once it's like started to show evidence that it is actually recovering. And then right in here is where we should start seeing the evidence start to form. And so we're getting close. We just seems like we still have the spook. I don't know if the spook is going to be today. I don't know if it's going to be a Fed meeting. I don't know if it's going to drag on, right? Drag on in here, which it totally could. This would be totally fine, right? Right? That would be fully acceptable. So I don't know the timing of it. I know that we just have a lot of narratives going on, and today's Fed Day. So we'll see if Fed Day ends up being the triggering event for it. The anticipation is that there's not really going to be anything that comes from Fed Day, as we typically do see we've seen in the last several meetings, is that there's been no change to the Fed funds rate. The consistent message out of the Fed is the uncertainty and that we don't know what we're doing. That's just kind of what they keep saying. Everything is uncertain. We don't know anything. We know nothing. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. But we're not going to do anything because we have no idea what's going on. That's pretty much the message that we get out of every Fed meeting. Now, let me show you this. The expectation is 99.9% chance that they're going to remain paused and a 0.1% chance that they're going to end up cutting. We've watched a lot of these like shorter term yields, and the 1 month yield has started to go into a drift down to the downside, which it's been holding this level since December. So December hovering here at 4.25. Now drifting down to 4.12. So that's a little bit of a change. So you may be thinking, maybe the market's got it priced wrong. Maybe something is coming. But one thing that's interesting, it's actually been that 2 month yield that's been the interesting one. And the 2 month yield has escaped from this range down here, and it's up about 0.1% or 10 basis points. So kind of mixed messaging happening there in short term yields, but the market has it priced in that they're going to be paused. But it's interesting what's the difference here between the 1 month and the 2 month yield. And it's been this 2 month that's been pretty consistent in here. But we have two totally divergences happening between twos and ones. The ones have broken down from that range, like they're going to do a small cut, or at least a cut maybe coming next meeting or something. Whereas the 2 month is implying that either they're going to raise rates, or in the next meeting after this one, they'll maybe raise it by a quarter basis point. Who knows, man? The market says that they're going to remain paused, and the probabilities looking forward imply that they'll be paused again in July. And then there's like there's about a 60% chance that they'll cut in September. But what we know is that the market constantly has this priced in incorrectly. This is always changing. And I think by now, in 2025, we had priced in 7 rate cuts at the beginning of the year. We had priced in 7 rate cuts. We've had 0, and we're halfway through the year, and it's not expected that we're even going to get any in the first 2/3 of the year at this point. Whereas at the beginning of the year, they priced in that we would have 7. So we'll see what the Fed has to say. Yields are not really giving any kind of clue, and if anything, kind of mixed messaging happening over there. And we'll just see what happens. But otherwise, we are still just in the slow creep grindingness of Bitcoin, waiting for this to happen. And boy, I look forward to get through that. And what I want to do is I want to be the surge inbound, rocket ships galore, your mom goes to college kind of guy. But we have to get through that first. And the reason I'm cautious is because, like somebody had asked earlier, what do you think is going to happen to XRP in here? If XRP doesn't give a little lift, there's going to be a scare here. There's going to be something scary in regards to a liquidation that comes in that event if it doesn't kind of get a little bit of a rebound first before that. So get through that, get to that liquidation, spook the market, have people coming into markets in the morning and have every question be utterly scared and worried. And then we'll flip the opposite way and we'll say rocket ships inbound while nobody will. It's always funny because that's when nobody wants to hear it. Everybody wants to hear it when we're higher, and then when we're lower, nobody wants to hear it. So that'll be a kind of a sign. Do you think it's irresponsible to be bullish here now after we've already liquidated? And so that's kind of the thing we're just on the wait for, and we'll see if it's coming anytime soon, or if we have to keep waiting. But one day, I do think one day, just waiting. As we drift sideways. And like I said, back in May, it was kind of like, hey, you want to watch some paint dry? Boy, oh boy, has it been. So we just continue to watch the paint drying over here on XRP. Nothing unusual now, right? Nothing unusual in here. Simple stuff. And we'll see if you get something like that happening before that C leg comes in and before liquidation happens. But otherwise, it's just a complete patience game. The stock market, obviously, all the way up. Maybe it's going to be hard to put out multiple videos. We will try at the beginning of the week to go into the rotational top theory at the beginning, video for the beginning of next week. It's been a while since we've covered it. The newsletters have obviously gone into it in extreme detail, but we'll try to put out a video for it. Discussing the absence of breadth in here and why you would see an opening of breadth happen in here, where this doesn't become a new bull market, but this becomes a rotational area for larger equity indexes like the NASDAQ and the Dow and the S&P, and it becomes more of an opening of breadth for other stuff, right? Like look at Roblox, dude. I'm about to have to take some profits on my Roblox here. Roblox was going to be one, you know, it was included in things of like Confluence. If we see Confluence with Roblox and other things, we're just not seeing the other things happening in the market just yet. So Roblox may go for a full-blown breakout in here, but I can't let that escape without taking some profits in there. So I will be taking some profits on my Roblox here pretty soon. Congrats to all the haters at the bottom. Everybody who wanted to hate on Roblox. These like 22-year-old dinguses who live with their mom. Dudes who are in their 30s and 40s who have kids. You got it. You were like, I get it. Roblox. I understand. So Roblox, that was a nice one. GE's been a nice one too, but where was I going with that before I rudely interrupted myself? I was talking about NASDAQ, rotational top. Dang it. What was I going to say? Oh, no, I had such a good train of thought. Anyway, yeah, maybe it'll come back to me. I don't know. I don't know if it will. Anyway, rotational up in here, and then, of course, the rest of the market being able to play the catch-up game. Dang. The heck was I going to say? Anyway, all right, there you go. There's your S&P. There's your Russell. Russell, of course, still waiting for that as well. Gold, right? You could just see that momentum train of all of that stuff. It's really gone into kind of a distribution happening in here. Still unknown if it's going to go try to poke for that thing like we saw with XRP, where it flags in here. It takes one little stab up, but it's just this. All right. I don't think we're going to go into like major crashing for gold, but I think all the momentum for gold has come to a conclusion. That's just whether or not it's going to end up trying to stab for that thing or not, or just continue waddling throughout here. I couldn't imagine it going below. Hard to remember my numbers in here. I don't think we're going to go. I don't think you go below 2,500 now. But I think it'll just be waddling here for some time. U.S. oil, obviously, with all the geopolitical tensions, has been fascinating to see that price break out in there. So when it comes to geopolitical tensions, I know we all like to take things at surface value of what they could mean. And, you know, oh no, the world's going to come to an end, right? We're going to see that when we look over here, right? Threatening irreparable damage if U.S. enters conflict. You know, that's likely a lot of propaganda. We've seen a lot of propaganda come out of that side of the world here recently. But I even wrote about this in the newsletter, how the perfect timing of the event caused a recovery. And you could see the newswire starting to happen over here on June 11th. And then everything happens and we break out in here, right? We saw a lot of that happen back in here, right? We had gotten back into a retracement in here for oil back in 2022, right? This was the major breakdown level for oil back in 2014. It took 8 years for it to get back to these levels. This was likely to become a rejection level for oil in here. However, what happened to cause the breakout? You know it. We were here. We were talking about it the whole time when it happened, right? Russia and Ukraine ends up happening there. Of course, the world says that we're going to go shooting to the upside for oil. It just crashes ever since then. You know, we have a major break of support happening here for oil recently, and then we get a geopolitical event to try to get it to recapture itself. And so, like, I look at it, you know, I don't know anything from any other guy when it comes to geopolitical stuff. I have no idea, but, you know, I do know it's 4D chess happening. I do know we're all hit with propaganda from everywhere. Every country is going to put out propaganda, whether it's, you know, Iran, Israel, China, all Middle Eastern countries, Western countries, the United States. Everybody's going to propagandize this, right? And it's all going to be its own thing. But I always look at, like, who benefits, you know, what can be the causation of things like this to happen. In something like this, of course, cutting off Iran's oil supplies to China, right? China gets like 14 to 19% of their oil from Iran, and they get it at like $10 less per barrel. So, who gets hurt by that? China gets hurt by that. United States is the biggest exporter of oil in the world. So, raise the price of oil, helps exports, helps GDP. So, we'll see how this goes. We'll see if this was like a save of oil. I'm doubtful this whole thing escalates tremendously. I think it'll probably escalate a little bit more than what it is right now. But I think everybody, I think Iran came out and threatened yesterday. Overnight, you will see the attack that will be remembered for centuries. Nothing happened, right? Like Iran's out there saying that they've dominated Israel's airspace. No, they haven't. They're getting absolutely lopsided of what's happening in here. But there's propaganda from every angle during events like this. And of course, me being on the other side of the world, how the heck do I know the full real story? I don't. But something about this, I try to look at it from a geopolitical chessboard of who benefits, why do they benefit, right? Oil prices seem to be things that benefit from this. So we'll see. Everybody's scared of the whole thing. I'm just wondering, we've seen this game before, right? We saw this with Iraq. The whole weapons of mass destruction thing, that's what it was, but then it went on for 20 years, right? We'll see. We'll see how it develops. I don't want to comment too much and make myself sound like too much of a dingus, but I do try to not look at it from surface value of what the propaganda is that's being given to me, but who benefits? How do they geopolitically benefit? How do they politically benefit? All that different stuff right there. And the thing that definitely happened during this event was the break back up from oil. It really saved it after holding that support for years, right? We're talking back to 2021. This is a 4-year support that gets crushed. This happens to break it back up. So interesting to say the least. As for silver, of course, silver crossed above $37 yesterday. I think silver is just on its march higher. Still going to be stuff to whipsaw it back and forth, but it's on its march. Feels good to be a silver guy, but feels bad to not be stacking anymore. I'm gonna miss it. As for the dollar, 98.69, so just hovering down these lows. Nothing drastic happening for the dollar just yet. When we saw the dollar fall back in 2020 and 2021. We didn't actually have crypto markets start raging and roaring until we had actually already reached the bottom of the dollar. Let's see if I can add that on here. It's at total 3. Right. We actually had to get all the way to the bottom of the dollar. The dollar had crashed, and then that's once we had already reached the bottom, that's where the big breakout happens in here, and the entire bull run of the crypto market happens on the double bottom of the dollar. It doesn't even set a new low below January, but that's the whole thing. So just kind of waiting for some evidence of that to show up over there on the dollar. Bitcoin dominance, like we said, 65%. I don't think it's going to see any major breakdown until we can get through this moment right in here. I think that's the big storyteller in there on what's going to happen with Bitcoin dominance. So Ethereum, of course, Ethereum's ranging in here. We'll see if this is kind of like one of those, one of these style ranges or one of these style ranges. I could see it being something like that, just structurally at this point, is it, sweeping liquidity of both sides. I definitely think it's going to march up higher. I don't think this is the stopping point. I think this is a large range. I think it's just trying to sweep liquidity on both sides. And is that going to happen during a C leg? It looks pretty likely that it's probably going to. So there you go for Ethereum. So otherwise, we just continue the same story that we've been perpetuating. We are in a range. No need to think of it in any other form of what it is. Even if XRP does catch a pop-up in here, it's probably still going to fall once that C leg does come into play. We're all just waiting on all of that to play itself out. And I wish I could remember what I was going to say about the NASDAQ. I can't remember. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead and hop on over into news. Iran threatens irreparable damage if U.S. enters Israel conflict. I followed this event really closely. I normally do not follow this stuff, and I'm certainly not going to go into extreme detail about it here on the YouTube channel because that's not what this YouTube channel is. And I don't want to even portray myself as an expert, as I'm just a pleb from across the pond reading different Twitter pages to try to follow this thing. But it has been very fascinating to watch how it has really, truly played out and the propaganda that happens. It's fascinating. It's very fascinating. U.S. oil prices hold near 5-month high as Trump weighs the Iran attack. Stealth aircraft and 30,000-pound bombs. Why destroying Iran's nuclear program is such a difficult feat. Oil analysts left scratching their heads over the Israel-Iran conflict. Your guess is as good as mine. The Fed is unlikely to keep rates the same, but give a forecast that moves markets. What to expect? It's hard to know if they will give a forecast that moves markets. Last time, his outlook was extremely unknown. Again, another one of those conversations I was having with my wife this morning that last year, like she was kind of joking around because we always joke around when we do these Fed live streams, which we are doing later today, that the coughs, the throat clearings, the hard swallows that Jerome Powell does. Now I actually have to clear my throat. There we go. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, he still does that stuff, but it's not like it used to be. It used to be like he was real nervous. He was being very mindful of his words, like he was threading a needle, not wanting to move the markets. Now when he comes out there, it's just like guns blazing. He just doesn't care, right? Like they did the rate cuts before the election. They're like, yeah, we're going to be doing lots of rate cuts. And here, we're going to do 50 basis points now. Here we go. We've done it. We've won. As we go into the election, Trump wins. He does 25. His tone immediately changes. He only does a 25 basis point rate cut. And then now when he comes out to these things, yeah, he still throat clears. He knows all this stuff. But he's like guns blazing. He just doesn't care what happens anymore, right? Like it's a totally different animal. So yeah, we still make fun of the throat clearings and the tie and all that stuff, but it's a little bit different than it used to be with Jerome Powell. So he just comes out there. We don't know what's going on. We don't know. We don't care. We're not doing anything. We'll see what happens. I don't care. Again, I'm not political, dude. Like, you vote for whoever you want. I don't know what matters to you. You do whatever you want. Here's why I don't get political. One, because I'm not political. But let's be real here, right? What are there like, of my audience, half of you guys are Americans, so half of you don't care, right? And even if I did, like, influence every single person who watches my channel to, like, vote the way I want you to vote, who cares? It's not enough people, right? So don't ever think I'm coming on here to influence you in any way or express a political opinion. But we've done the Fed meeting thing for a long time. We've done every single one of the meetings. We've watched his tone change. It's just what happened. So I don't know if he'll do anything that's going to move markets or not. We'll see. Maybe he does. Maybe that's what ends up getting us our sea leg to come in here. And that'll be that. And then we can move on with our lives. But we'll see how it goes. All right. Stocks making the biggest moves pre-market. Oh, dang. The stock market's about to open. Let's see. Let's not miss that, right? All right, so it looks like we're expecting the NASDAQ to open up 42 points. The Russell be flat. The S&P up 7 points and the Dow up 39. We've got metals up. You got silver flat. Mostly metals are flat. Platinum is killing it. Holy cow, look at that platinum. Platinum's trying to go for a range breakout of being stuck in a range since 2014. So this is an 11-year range for platinum, an accumulation schematic, obviously. It looks like we're going to get, I don't know how that thing's not going to break out of here. It is. Let's just say it. It is going to break out. What's also interesting is the gold to silver ratio happening in here. Of course, gold to silver ratio, just like we saw in the DXY, back to retracement levels, ABC. I think in the long term, it's going to end up being silver that's going to be the winner. Of course, we've looked at the Dow Jones Industrial Average over silver. Look at that. The breakdown continues. So we've talked about this in the markets in the morning. These little double bounces, right? These things typically lead into bigger breakdowns to end up coming. Of course, as we're looking at this on the much bigger time frame, this is 25 years. This is the peak of the dot-com bubble. That everything that you've seen has just been monetary policy and printing and devaluation of the dollar to give the impression of a raging stock market for all this time. But silver's been the winner, the old money, right? So it's really just been a crash retrace. And then here we go, heading back down to the lows again over here for the Dow Jones when it's actually measured in our old money. So prior to 1965, our money was silver. and gold. And when you all of the coinage that we used was in silver, now it's all zinc and copper. And but as you can see, the stock market was only a 702 retrace versus silver, the true man's money. But anyway, breakdown looks to be in effect in here for Dow versus silver. Again, we've talked about this a lot. Hard to say whether or not that would just be the Dow breaking down or if that's just going to end up being silver outperforming it and breaking out, which it's obvious silver has been breaking out, so that's good. Don't really want to see the Dow Jones go crashing and crumbling at the exact same time. So, okay, we were there. We've done all that. Stock's making big moves. We didn't watch the stock market open. Okay, there you go. Dow Jones up 1 point. Wow, that's as flat as of an opening as you can get. There you go. S&P up 3, NASDAQ up 33, total flat opening as we are getting ready for the Fed meeting to happen today, which is anticipated to still remain being a pause. Otherwise, nothing going on out there. Everybody's talking about the Middle East conflict happening over there, which is propagandized from both sides like crazy. Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but we're all waiting on the Fed meeting. As for crypto news, here we go. Can we get through it without losing our ass? Iranian exchange Novatex hacked for over 81 million by Israel-linked hackers. Okay. Bitcoin below 100K, now less likely as Bitcoin price eyes liquidity at 106. Okay. Washington's second biggest city, Spokane, bans crypto ATMs. I don't see okay, look, there's zero chance I would ever use one of those Bitcoin ATMs. Have any of you actually used them? I wouldn't use that. What, I'm going to pay like a 10% premium on my Bitcoin and like get it printed on a piece of paper or something? And not only that, have you ever seen a person at one of we have those ATMs all over the place, those Bitcoin ATMs. I've never seen one person at them ever before. All right, we've almost made it, guys. We made it through 3 topics. Will Tron's Wall Street hopes implode with TRX as collateral? The crypto fund domicile decision, Europe or the United Kingdom? How to mine Bitcoin at home in 2025? Here's the answer. You can't. All right, Bitcoin, okay, not profitably. Okay. Bitcoin threatens 104K rug pull as trader says major move is yet to come. Wait, see, that's the beauty of having news, right? You could say both. Ubix raises $10 million to standardize stablecoin redemption and drive adoption. Kathy Wood's ARK dumps first Circle shares batch for $52 million. Man, that Circle, huh? Was it CRCL? Man, I don't remember last time seeing an IPO launch like that. You aren't going to get me touching this thing with a 10-foot pole, that's for sure. This is probably as climatic as you're going to get for Circle, an incredible IPO, and then what you got to pass the Genius bill happening at the same time. Like that's as hypey as you can get for stable coins as you're going to get, right? What other narrative is going to be as hypey for stable coins than what you have right now? But man, I don't remember seeing an IPO that doubled after days. Right? This is distribution. This is where all the early investors and insiders get to get out. Right? Crazy. Congrats to people who own it or who bought into it ahead of time. So Kathy Wood's ARK dumps first Circle shares batch for $52 million. Probably the best play Kathy Wood's done in a while. How to use ChatGPT for crypto strategy, signals, and sentiment. That'd be interesting. Maybe I'll read that later. Okay. Anyway, that's what you got going on today. Not a lot going on in the news. We're waiting on the Fed. You know how these things go. Typically, all the action and excitement comes once we get to the Fed and the day after the Fed. And, of course, we got all the news wire just bombarding us right now, trying to get you warmed up to being scared for when that event eventually comes to shake you. But we're just waiting on that to come, and I'm just looking forward to it because then we can stop talking about it. then I can be put the moon boot stuff on and just knock this off. I'm definitely tired of the range. I'm just tired of coming on here and being like, yeah, sideways and then a sea leg. I'm sure you guys are too. I love y'all and I hate doing it. But once we get through it, irresponsible, bullish BCB, just got to get through it first. But it's been great, right? Everything's gone right on track. We've ricocheted off of here. This is usually our moment where we end up seeing the dominance start to fall. That's the moments that we're waiting for, right? We just got to get there first. And then once we get there, that next leg will be a lot of profit taking for me. But we just got to get there first. So there you have it, guys. The sea leg continues, and we'll see if the Fed ends up being the catalyst or if it's a surprise. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a surprise and if we're all just kind of like, oh no, of whatever surprise it ends up being. Something startling, something unexpected, something we couldn't see coming. And it just kind of shocks people when it eventually comes, whether that's today, tomorrow, 3 weeks from now. We'll see. But a lot of times that happens unexpectedly. I think everybody's pointing over there at the Middle East stuff to say that's where it's going to be. It almost seems too obvious at this point that it would be that. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I'm going to hop into the chat. We got 578 likes. If you guys could hit the like button, I sincerely appreciate it. It's the number one way to support the channel. Otherwise, let's dive right on in. Oh, sweet. YouTube's going to crash on me. So I'll just keep on rambling before I could read it from here over here. All right. So right before, I think it will end up crashing on me and then I'll like have to transition and do my stuff where you don't even notice it. But all right. Night shift. Oh, wait. Yeah. Now that we've gotten through all that, I hope that you are all having a wonderful day and happy Wednesday, my dudes.
It is Wednesday, my
There we all go. Cancel that. Don't let that do that. And we are good. Very, very good. All right, let's dive on into the chat. Again, let me just remind you this in case you're about to bail right now. We will be back together when this thing happens in about a little over 4 hours from right now. We'll watch this stuff. We watch the price charts. We have everything going at the exact same time. We listen to the hard swallows. We all chat in the chat room. But we watch the price action of the crypto market during the Fed. So it just tends to be a volatile moment in markets. Of course, we're all waiting to see if we're going to get that. We'll see if it comes during the Fed or not. The sooner the better, frankly. Just it's a waiting game at this point. So we'll be together today. What time is that going to end up being? That's going to be about 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Pacific time. It's about when we'll get together. Night Shift gifted a BCB membership before the stream had started, like way before. Thank you, Night Shift. Of course, I'm getting to this like an hour later, brother. I appreciate it. Oscar Hernandez is a favorite waitress member for 10 months. Says, thanks, BCB, not just for what you did last week, but the suggestion last year, and also arguments you've made that helped me make the bigger picture clear. Brother, yeah, dude. Appreciate the support, man. Alias H says, I've been here since 2019. Thank you for the super chat. It says, you taught me that diamond hands are not cool, and you saved me heartbreak. We're so close to euphoria, and I can feel it. LFG, big thank you, BCP. Well, you know, there's periods to have diamond hands. Diamond hands is more of during a bear market, right? Or during bearish price action and trying to hold on and be diamond handed during those moments. Diamond hands, the meme is, and the culture is more of just like prices going up and never selling into it. And so that's the laughable part. It's when the crowd gets really excited together. They're all shaking, doing shaking hands emojis, diamond hands emojis. We're all into this. We're all tough people. We're all really tough because we're holding while prices are skyrocketing. Good job. You're a tough guy. Wow. We are really smart. Good job. That's not diamond handing. This is dingus stuff. But when it's really tough, that's the real diamond handing, right? So, yeah. I gave that one a good criticism. Chief Tane Blackbeard gifted 20 memberships. Man, thank you. That's super generous. Thank you very much. If your name turned green, just thank the guys. That's insane. Thank you. Andreas Sider. Hey, BCB, how do you see it? Oh, we already got that one. Andy Philpott gifted 5 BCB memberships. Andy, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Thank you. Luck. I want to talk about dominance charts. Bitcoin dominance used to be perpetual subs. You see the difference between percentage charts you pull up compared to the one I show? I don't know. Oh, geez. How do you type? I've never looked at this before. What is this? What is this? Oh, well, yeah, this is... Let's see if it'll work. It's the same thing, right? But this just started, obviously, in June of 2021. Just started at the bottom. So obviously they let you trade the dominance over there on Binance. Thank you for the super chat. Bonkers for XRP gifted 5 memberships. Man, Bonkers, thank you. Cameron Vaughn, member for 14 months, says, appreciate everything you've done. The fact that all the negative news is happening at a convenient time has kept my emotions in check. Thank you. Yeah, the thing too is that, right, of course, I will take a surprise to the upside any day of the week. I just have to be real cautious coming on here because of what these things typically end up doing, right? Yeah, and that's why I just show you all the examples. I don't try to come on here and be a guru and tell you I've got some secret sauce to show you, but just the ideas of what we've gone through in the last several months as we were in here were these ideas, right? And you can go back through the YouTube channel, you go back through all the newsletters. These are the things that were talked about in here, and then talk about ricocheting back up to the top, right? And that what ends up happening is the ABC ends up happening in here. Sometimes the ABC will start from below the peak. Sometimes it'll happen from above the peak. But either way, we still head into those ABC corrections before it can end up going through a breakout. And the consistent thing that happens is that there does just tend to be the C leg, right? I'm not going to get wrong-footed by this market if it breaks the upside because I'm long the market. But you're talking about, I'm ready for it, all the news and stuff like that. There's probably gonna be something scary. I still think that because the sentiment's not there. The sentiment never came back during that rally up in there. That there's something that just rattles people. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's this or if we're already there. Again, surprise me, shoot to the upside. Oh, let's already be there, right? Like maybe the Iran-Iraq stuff was it, and that was, that scared people, and everybody was already getting out, and they're just waiting for it to crash and crumble, and it just ricochets to the upside. But usually not. Usually there's going to be something, and it's hard to know how long it's going to take until we get there, and then what the news can do to itself then, right? Like I think we all want it now. And then show me what happens in here. But we talk about with markets that there's like multiple forms of capitulation. There's price-based capitulation, right? There's even news-based capitulation. We really talk about that one. There's time-based capitulation, and there's jealousy-based capitulation, right? And if this one meanders longer before it does it, is that enough time to kind of shake the confidence? And so we just el patienso. Wednesday Spanish lesson. But anyway, I gave you all the examples, and to not be a guru, I'll give you examples of this is how they happen. Here's how what has happened here. Here's 3 other times it happened. This is what happened afterwards. Right now, we just wait it out. But thank you, Cameron. Stephen Edinburgh, member for 12 months. Happy congratulations on a year. Thank you. Have you ever read The Fourth Turning? I have not. Sure looks like we're coming to the end of the cycle, of that cycle too. It's interesting times to be alive. It's very interesting. So like things that I was chat GPTing this the other day. When I say the other day, I meant 9 o'clock at night last night in bed. Like I mentioned, with all these conflicts and international stuff, rather than just like taking it on surface value, to be like, who benefits from all of this? Like, okay, everybody's worried that the U.S. is going to interject in it and become a part of this. What would be the consequences of that? How does the U.S. benefit right now? How would the U.S. benefit from interjecting? How would the U.S. not benefit? What would be the repercussions of interjecting? But you said it sure looks like we're coming to the end of that cycle too. It's interesting times to be alive. The interesting thing about oil, right? And Iran, and I mentioned it, that China can pay Iran in yuan and gets like a $10 discount per barrel on oil, and that the BRICS, and there's even with Russia, China's able to pay for some of their oil in yuan, and just obviously everybody's trying to get away from the U.S. dollar, right? And it was like U.S. dollar dominance for oil, right? Right. U.S. is the primary method of payments worldwide, and right now for like oil payments, it's about 85% of all oil is transacted in dollars, right? But if you go back to 2015, it was 95%, right? That's only 10 years ago, and so you say to yourself, okay, well, it's not a big difference, but it like really is a big difference. 95% means that 19 out of 20 transactions are in dollars, but now it's 85%, which only means 17 out of 20, which means rather than it being 1 out of 20 transactions not being in dollars, now 3 transactions out of every 20 are not in dollars. So in a matter of 10 years, the number of transactions has tripled that are not in dollars. That's crazy, right? I was like, all right, Chat GPT, what do you think it'll be in 2035? And it was like, maybe 70%. Okay, so so maybe 65, 70%. It's like, okay, so what? In 10 years from now, we're going to be at like 7 or 8 transactions out of every 20 are not in dollars. Like, that's the direction we're going in. So like, there's a change happening. There's stuff going on, and we're going to live through it. All right, Pew Pew, are you going to grab any position on some more ADA to your bag on this? Like, I'm done buying crypto. Like, my bags are so packed. I own too much crypto. I own too much. It's just at that point. Not saying it's a bad decision. I mean, I think when the sea leg comes, that'll be the bottom of everything. That'll be the bottom of everything. So it's not a bad decision. Just for my end goals of where I'm trying to get to, and portfolio balance, I'm way overweight crypto right now. But thank you, Pew Pew member, for 9 months. Bonkers, new member, Bonkers for XRP, welcome. Crypto _ Matt TX, member for 16 months. Say BCB rocks, happy Wednesday. Thank you very much, Matt. Cameron Vaughn, outside of metals, will you include in your newsletter other opportunities you might be looking at? When the reality is that like when things fall, it tends to be a lot of, I don't think I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about that. And there are probably like inverse ETFs that I've been eyeing and things like that. But you're essentially betting on price action to go down. Am I getting a text message? Let's see. I always have to check this because it's like I have a producer in the background, PTW. She lets me know if I've missed super chats or if I need to play the frog and whatnot. Cash is king, right? It's been a long time since we've seen that environment of it being like cash is king. And I think there's going to be a day where it's probably going to be cash is just king. And the sexy thing to own is the unsexy thing. I loved it when, what was it? This one. What's the name of the meme where the girl's like whispering on the other girl's ear? And it's like, he's got blah, blah, blah. And she's got like the shocked face of like, whisper, shocked girl meme. There it is. He's got a U.S. Treasury account with bonds, notes, and bills. That might be the sexy thing one day, right? So that's probably going to end up being, the bulk of it, right? Like just parking your money somewhere and getting, 5%, 4%, and that just kind of being the play for a little while. Or inverse stuff, right? Like if you think Bitcoin's going to go down, right, then, understanding and knowing your inverse Bitcoin ETFs, things like that. But yeah, there it is. YouTube finally crashed on me. Took you long enough. So right now it's more of just getting to more of cash position. And then slowly from there, moving on. It's definitely not some like go all in on some other flip play for me. It'll be very slow. Yeah, you can still hear me even though YouTube crashes. It's just on my end. I shouldn't even tell you guys that, but I do just in case like you're wondering why I'm not responding to other things. But a lot of times I can get it back up and running so quickly you don't even notice it ever happened. Robert Francis. Super chat, no message. Thank you very much. Cameron Vaughn. And my last question. Thank you for the super chat. Does the Russell break out first before alts follow, or do they break out together? Well, they tend to break out together, right? That's how it typically goes. Spencer Goulmain. You think we could see a rate cut to give markets that one last push, then turmoil, maybe the July Fed meeting? I have no idea how it'll go with the Fed narrative, guys, on how that'll all play. RS Bras, Tia dead. Yeah, it ain't doing anything. Handicappers. Here's your ADA super chat. Same thoughts? Yes. Ben Willis, what's your opinion on hype? I don't have any opinion on it. Oscar Hernandez sent 5 BCB memberships. Brother, thank you very much, man. Oscar, it's good to see you. Rodrigo Pimentel, good morning, BCB. What's your ETH scenario? My fibs, 702 is at 3.3 and 3.6. Extensions, 5.78, 5.856, 7.88. Likely to happen in September or December. When moon. Yeah, there's like a lot of models out there that puts the top of the crypto market happening in September. And so that'll be real fascinating to see if a lot of those models fall in play with all of these things happening together, right? It's important to remember that if we get an alt season, highly unlikely it's like longer than 30 days, right? That everything just kind of happens really fast, everything is crazy, and then it's all over. And so it's not like there's not that type of window for that to happen. And it's kind of like, okay, well, if this kind of drags out here and goes here, if this goes sideways even for like a month on end, and then it happens, and then it gets to here, it's like August, and then it takes off. And it's like, okay, August, 30 days into September, and there's the top. It could happen. Ethereum scenario's been difficult right? I mean, the obvious simple thing for me is just putting the 4.236 extension on this range and treating it as a contracting triangle, right? That's the obvious thing. And of course, doing that with the market cap of Ethereum, right? Just treating it as a crash, retrace, reaccumulation of wave 4, right? And to attempt to go for a full extension, like near 20K. But I'm just not going to commit to it because the market's been so funky over the last couple of years. Obviously, we know this time has been different. If there's like, I'm going to just watch for confluences. And I could imagine it. It's like 2021. There just became a day. And I've told this story many times. It's like, I was actively hunting for it and looking for the top and looking for the peak. And man, it might have been this day. I mean, it literally could have been November 9th or 10th. There was a sign that showed up in the market because I was actively looking for the top at that time. You guys know it. But when the CEO of Apple went on TV and told people that they should have Bitcoin and Ethereum in their portfolios, I don't know why that was the thing. It was the thing that triggered me to set. I was in the kitchen. I had my phone going. It was like shared on Twitter or something. I was playing it as I was doing my normal thing where I'm like making a shake. And that just triggered the light bulb and said, that's it. That's the top. And sure enough, that's the top. Go back and let's go find it. Tim Cook, Ethereum, Bitcoin, 2021, November. Here it is. Tim Cook says he owns cryptocurrency and he's been interested in it for a while. Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Monday, Tuesday. That was the top. Because you got to remember what had happened with retail. It was like a trending behavior. Like Elon Musk was like the superhero of retail during all of this. And it doesn't feel like it now because you just don't hear people talking about it. Boy, the stock market's flipped green. Let's go. Dow's up 100, S&P's up 16, Nasdaq's up 59, and Russell's up 8. You don't hear about it now. Apple is still part of the Mag 7 and everything, but it's not like it was back then. Like you guys who like you drool and you listen to the Nvidia earnings and like you just like have pictures of their CEO pasted on your wall before you go to bed. You like do a ritual and stuff. That's what it was like for Apple back then. So to see that was just, it was a thing. All right. I'm just rambling. Anyway, the obvious thing, right? I'm just gonna put a range on it. If there becomes something clear as day, like I'm telling you, like a SWE goes on and hits a 4.236 extension. If Ethereum or if XRP hits a 4.236 extension on its market cap, and there's confluences that are happening in multiple places, I'm willing to pull the plug on anything early if I'm seeing those confluences show up. I'll have targets picked out, but there has to be a lot of humbleness from what happened in 2021. That this market, and we've definitely said, it's just not going to be the same as things of like you expected from 2017, where you buy the top 10 assets and you ride them off into the universe, right? You go to the moon with all 10, and that's all you have to do. This market just isn't like that anymore. And Ethereum's been a clear challenge of this cycle for sure. So 4.236 extension, of course, is the ultimate area. But if there's signs showing up first, if like XRP is hitting its extension, SWE is hitting its extension, Bitcoin's already like done. Like let's say Bitcoin like hits. First of all, I don't know how this will behave in here, and so I'm still waiting on this to happen. Let's do it. I'm just going to go like this for now. Right. So eventually we'll get down here, whether that's just coming here first and then doing it and getting here, right? Or if it's going to happen today or when it's going to happen. I think we'll do this and then, right, then it'll break out and roar. And I think we should see the signs of the altcoin market starting here, right? And Bitcoin dominance starting to fall. Now, what will be interesting, I drew this line way too high because I don't think it's going that high. What I think is that we're roaring into that. And then what will be fascinating about it is if it's like what we see a lot, right? And of course, we got burned by this in 2021, waiting for that retracement to come in way over here. Or if the market's planning on peaking here, right? Will the altcoin market peak here or here? And so that's things we'll be looking for and for confluence factors to show up in there. Does XRP hit its peak in here? Does SUI hit its peak in here? Are certain things hitting particular levels to tell confluence that that's going to be the peak or that? And we'll look at the dominance of Bitcoin at the time to do that. But I don't know. This is your typical behavior, right? Right? You're going to go back into those retracements. We did see it in 2021, just it happened in a much shorter time frame. Right, this fall could take a week to happen in here, and then it takes 2 weeks to go back into there, and then we're all said and done, and it's all over. But right, that's the next phase of things we'll be talking about right now, right? So I know that when we're doing the YouTube videos and stuff, we're super hyper focused on this range, right? But once we get beyond that, what I'm trying to do is like lay the foundation of things I'm like looking ahead to see, and it's that, you know, when we get back to here, I want to start seeing the Bitcoin dominance start to fall, right? Right, and I don't think we're going to see it until we get to that oval, right? Until the sea leg's done and we shoot back up, then looking for the evidence of it happening right there. Then it starts looking at what's likely going to happen here is, again, going to be this just miniaturized in here. And then it becomes the final push. And that becomes the end of Bitcoin. And the thing that we're going to watch for, this I'm looking for and thinking ahead, is do we see evidence that that is the peak of the altcoin market at the same time and everything is going to crash together? Or do we see evidence that that's just the peak of Bitcoin and we'll head back to retracements, and this is where we'll actually see euphoria of the market? That what we talk about all the time is when you're in a bull market, retail investors get scared and shaken out of dips. That's why I think they're going to get scared in here, and there's going to be fear in here because we never saw euphoria return, and we're still going to have retail get scared of this dip. But in this dip, retail will not get scared. Retail will buy the dip. There'll still be the euphoria. We go back into the retracement. Altcoins are probably moving, and then the market crashes and crumbles, and we're probably done for years at that point. Right? That's what would be textbook standard stuff to happen. But we'll have to watch this, right? So get all of my stuff, right? This is just what we're hyper-focused on right now, right? But then we're going to start hyper-focusing on these things afterwards, right? And that is going to end up being the dynamic of the altcoin market. And does it seem like it's going to be peaking here, or does it seem like it's going to be peaking here? And so we'll look for the evidence of those things at the time. And so that's our next phase to be looking forward to. Get through this chop, say another C word, and then get onto there. All right, now we'll go back to, let me get all that off of there. Every line I've drawn. Go back to that. Because you know I need to have this all set up for my next video when we talk about this again. Okay, there we go. Manuel, new member, welcome, brother. Thank you. Marat, ADA, there you go, ADA. Gino D'Amelio, hey, BCB, 60C still collaborating with you on the newsletter? He's not. I haven't heard about him in a while. Yeah, no, I haven't talked to the guy in a while. Steve Rowe Tax. Hey, BCB from the UK. With your wealth of chart knowledge, what sort of price do you think XRP can fall back in the next scare event? Well, it just depends. We talked. This is actually covered earlier in the newsletter, earlier in the YouTube video, YouTube live stream. If it happens today, I don't see how it's not going to wick down into these price levels, right? Or if it's going to get some type of pop that happens before it. And it all just depends on how long is it going to take for that C leg to get into play, right? If one of these comes first, right, where we've seen this happen before with XRP, where some news events happens completely XRP related, price shoots up, then some type of liquidation hits the market, and somehow, some way, that event was able to save the price for when a liquidation actually ended up coming afterwards, right? So, like, obviously, if the market liquidates from right now, it's going to be some wick. I'm not sure where the wick is going to take it to in the event that if it happens like today. But if it doesn't happen today, if it's still like weeks away before we're going to end up getting the C leg to end up happening, which like here other examples of these things of a C leg just like drowning on, like this one, right? Just drowns sideways until one day goes. Right, so yeah, I say everybody's on edge of being like, is it going to be today? Right? What if it's not? Right? So, it just depends on how long it takes for Bitcoin. I think if it happened today, it would obviously take prices lower than where we are today and, go below that like 208 level. But if it takes weeks from now, there's plenty of time for the price to shoot its way up and be ready to absorb that when it ends up coming. And I just don't know. Oscar Hernandez, let's hit the like button. Douglas Ballou says, sir, is the C leg mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. It could just be stuck in a range. It could just be stuck in that range. Yep. The thing I can show you, it just usually happens, right? It usually does. So you can either, bet on it not and say it'll defy it this time, or, go with what typically happens. Sure, brother. Douglas, yeah, thank you. It's a good question, right? It definitely could just be like a running sideways consolidation that just gets tighter and tighter and tighter and then breaks. But this is typically what happens, right? So just kind of filling you in. So, all right, there we go. We are at an hour and 8 minutes. I have to run. Guys, I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Of course, check out the newsletter that was released there just 2 days ago, right? What is today? Wednesday? 3 days ago. Over there at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Give you one frog on the way out. Happy Wednesday, but we'll see each other in a few hours from now.
It is Wednesday, my dude. It is Wednesday.
There we go. And then get ready for 3 hours and 49 minutes from this moment that we will be back together. But all right. That's it. If you could hit the like button on your way out, I appreciate it. It's the #1 way to support the channel. Of course, everybody, thank you so much for the super chats, the memberships, the interacting with me, the questions, everything like that. You guys rock. I was trying to think. I don't know. My memory's fuzzy. I can tell I'm not. You take a couple of weeks off from live streaming. There's an art to live streaming, and I don't consider myself to be a live streamer. We just do it once a week, but there's an art to it, to being able to talk, to keep your thoughts flowing, to already be thinking ahead of what you're going to talk. Like, you have to pretty much be talking and then already know that once you're finished talking about what you're talking about right now, what you're going to be talking about next. So your brain has to already kind of be thinking ahead while your mouth is running constantly. Because what's the number one party foul of being a live streamer? It's silence. You can't be silent. You got to keep the mouth running at all times. So I can tell I'm a little rusty. I can feel it. You guys may not notice it on your end, but on my end, I can definitely notice it. So, but thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, check out the newsletter. Have a wonderful day, and I will catch you guys in just a few hours. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. A loss of train of thought. Yeah. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like the live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Nice recovery in the stock market. Everything's green. Have a good one.